Hey folks, so in this video what I'm going to be doing is discussing the process for you to submit bids for your project. So at this point, hopefully you spend a few days looking over the projects yourselves, maybe talking with your team, and you have some idea of what you'd like to basically to bid on, right? What is it that you're going to be working on for another year? So now, right, I'm going to actually unveil on Blackboard. There's going to be a link that basically is called Project Bidding, and it will let you actually submit for those things. So what this video is going to do is I'm going to basically walk through the process of how to do your project bids, what we're kind of expecting to see in them, and some strategies of hopefully ways to get the projects that you want. So let me go ahead and move forward. Okay, first thing, so I'm going to talk about the bidding process, kind of an overall timeline as far as what's happening this week, what's happening next week, and the week after it. Talk about some of the specific bidding criteria, bidding strategies, right, and then kind of the next steps for you guys. So first thing is the overall bidding process. So there's some dates here. This is a timeline. The main date that's emphasized here is actually next Wednesday. So this is 9/13. So this is when the project bids are due. So today, right, this is actually Friday. So I think this is, I'm not going to do the math, it's like 9/8 or something like that. But from now until Wednesday is when you guys will have a chance basically to submit your project bids, right? So we'll label this maybe on the timeline, right? This is now. Okay, so from now, let's pretend that says now. From now until the 13th, right, is your valid time basically to make bids, right? So you're going to create bids based on the project definitions, right, or the project descriptions. These are the proposals that are labeled in Blackboard, right? These are the ones you guys have hopefully already spent some time going through, right? And so that is basically your primary input to the process of, oh, I want to create a bid, right? Because that controls not only the bids you submit, right, which projects you bid on, but also kind of the tone of the flavor, right? So when you select a project to bid on, you're looking at things like, oh, this is cool, right? It's interesting. We have some motivation for it, as well as you have some skill set that's associated with it and would help us to accomplish it. Okay, so all of kind of your input, right, if you would, for that creating your proposals is coming from those bids, from that project information is available on Blackboard. From that, right after you guys kind of have your discussions, you'll generate the official bids, right, which is kind of shown up here. And this is what you're going to be submitting in Blackboard on Wednesday, right? This is kind of our main our milestone, if you would, right? Is that we want things by Wednesday at midnight. And so once you guys generate those, what happens is there'll be a process of about a week where we take a look at the bids from your class, from the ground class, also a few from a graduate capstone class as well, and determine basically who is going to be the best fit, right? So who is really wants to do this project as well as has the background and say yes, we can be successful at it, right? So that's going to be kind of a thing that's going to take around a week. Well, we're hoping we can get this done in less than a week, but. Things come up. Our current timeline is basically to release you guys back, a list of who's doing what, right, by the 18th, right? So that's when our project assignments would go out, and so that's kind of our, our little gap there. It's 5 days, right, basically to go from you guys submitting our proposals to us and all the different classes to us getting you back what project you're going to be assigned to. And then after that, right, then we'll kind of be getting into a more regular rhythm of things, right, where you guys are going to start meeting with your sponsors. You're going to have regular meetings. We'll have a few assignments kind of there that are going to be coming up eventually. Things like, for example, an initial design document, and probably at some point a presentation, basically of what's going on with your project. But for now, this is where we're going, right? So next week, right, project bids are due on Wednesday. 5 days later, we'll get you guys back with what exactly projects have been assigned to what groups. Okay, so some notes on project bidding. First of all, your actual bids that you're submitting, they are going to count towards your grade. So it's going to be, it's basically going to be part of our project planning. The percentiles, if you see on the syllabus, right? We want to basically have some idea of basically what you're getting into, right? That is what we are measuring there, right? Are you able to look at a project, judge what are the requirements there, right, in terms of skill set, and then both identify what is appropriate for you, and then also back up that by explaining to the sponsor, right, in the bidding, that you guys are prepared to do this, right? So this does have an impact on your grade. It's not just a participation credit. Second thing is, as far as bidding, you are required to bid for at least 3 projects. Okay, so this is going to be basically in ranked order. So your first project, right, is the thing you want to do the most. Second is the thing you want to do second most. Third is the thing you want to do third most. Optionally, you can have a 4th bid as well. So the 4th bid as well, we're not going to require that for any groups, but it's basically a chance to say, okay, there's this 4th project we're interested in as well, right? So it's just a little bit of flexibility, so you can kind of have more options, right, if you want, right? If you want to make sure that you're getting one of these projects, right, you can submit your 4th bid, right? If your first 3 you're thinking, oh, maybe those are going to be super popular or something. I would recommend that you guys do fill out all 4. I think there's a lot of projects out there, and I would really recommend, right, you just go ahead and go for it. These are the ones that we want the most. Okay. Okay, so I already mentioned, right, they're ordered. Another thing is basically what we're expecting to see in these proposals, right, or in these bids. Okay, so the bids, right, first thing, right, is we expect you to demonstrate professionalism, right? So these are going to be concisely written. They're going to be, well written, right? There's not going to be grammar errors, right? There's not going to be spelling errors. At a certain point, right, this is, you guys need to basically kind of man up, right, and write this as if it was going to, a commercial entity, right, who was, maybe has lots of money or something like that, right? This is now important stuff. Don't think of this just in terms of something that's an assignment for a class. I really want to see you guys do your best. So when we go and evaluate these, right, one of the first things that we're going to see, right, is we look at a project bid and we say, oh, hey, this team, isn't, they gave us 20 pages of information, right, and they didn't try to be concise at all, or maybe there's all sorts of errors in terms of grammar, or spelling, or capitalization. Those, right, to me are going to be something that's like, well, we'll just throw that bit away, right, because that is basically something that's low effort, right. I want to see you guys basically putting your best foot forward, right, being as professional as you can be. When you write these, right, and some of these, there's a couple parts of these bids, and I'll show you, we'll talk about the parts in a minute. But when you do these, right, and you fill these out, one thing is make sure you make some effort to basically understand the sponsor's perspective, right? So from the sponsor's perspective, they want to get something done, right? So certainly the sponsors are happy basically to work with you guys and add to your learning experience. But part of it for them, right, is they do want to see a product at the end of the year, right? They do want to see something concrete. And so when you do your proposals, you should basically be justifying this, right? You should be able to say, okay, we are the people to complete this because we have the skill set, right? Or maybe there's a small gap in our skill set, but hey, that's something that we are motivated to learn, and it's something we can do in this timeline, and we have put together this plan of how do we address that weakness, right? Or that kind of lack of preparation. Right, so you're also trying, right, in a sense, to sell your bid, right, to the sponsor. One thing to note is that the bids right now, basically we, the instructors, are going to be the primary evaluators of that. At this time, we're not planning actually to send those to the sponsors because then we'll be stuck for a month waiting to hear back, right? So we're going to be the ones that are evaluating, right, us, the instructors. But it's still important for you guys basically to write this from the point of view of, oh, this is going to the sponsor, right? I need to address what are their concerns, right, from what they want to get out of this, right? And part of the things they want to get out of it is certainly a completed project. Okay, last thing there is kind of a reminder of the timeline. So we're looking at Wednesday as being the due date, right? So Wednesday at 11:59. Please try and hit that. Right? Try very, very hard. If there is some issue, I know there's some weather stuff that's maybe coming up for people. Please let me know and let me know early. But other than that date is pretty much set in stone. Okay. So quick thing on Blackboard. So in order to get to this, basically you're going to go to week 4, which is basically this week, the week they'll have this video, and then scroll all the way to the bottom. And there's going to be an announcement that says project bidding. This is going to be a link that opens up a Blackboard test, and it'll have all different information for you. And I'll talk about that in a second. One key thing to note here is that I only want to see this from one member of your team. So please don't have, all 5 members of your team, right, submitting this link. I just want to see one per team. I try to keep it concise. We don't want to have to basically look at submissions by different people in the same group and try to figure out, oh, which is the correct one, right? Which has the final word. We do not want that. So make sure only one member of your group fills it out. Now in there, you're going to be asked for several things. One thing you're going to be asked for, and it's kind of the most important, so I put it at the top, but it's actually going to be at the bottom of the form once you look at it in the Blackboard, is going to ask you for ASU rights. And it's actually going to have some text in there that basically says, okay, what we want here really is a unique identifier for students. This unique identifier, if you write it there, right, we're using ASU rights for this time. If you write it there, that implies that student has had input on this project bid, right, the set of project bids that are being submitted. What I do not want to see is teams submitting a project bid and one person got left out of the decision-making process, okay? That is not appropriate. This is a group effort, right? Everyone should be involved. And when I see those ASU rights, what that will imply to me is that everybody who's ASU rights listed there was involved. Please do not submit your project bids, right, without input from somebody. Try to get a hold of them, right? If there's an issue and you're like, oh, we got to submit this, but one person didn't comment on it, that is a problem, right? And that's something you should actually let me know so that we can take a look to see whether there's any communication issues as far as getting hold of all of your group members. Because again, everybody needs to have input on this, right? This is a group decision. Okay, so then in addition to that, we have basically space for the different bids. So there's 3 required bids, right? And the 4th is optional, and I recommend you do the 4th. For each of these bids, you're going to be asked for 3 things. The first is the project ID. So the project ID is the number in front of the folder if you look on Blackboard. It's also the number in the first column if you look in the spreadsheet, right? So that's our magic number to signify what you're interested in. Please get the numbers right. The numbers are the way we know what project you are talking about. Be very, very careful there. Do not, press the number 7 instead of the number 6, and all of a sudden you end up with a completely different project. Please be careful. Also, do not bid on a number that's not in the list of projects on Blackboard. Okay, if you do that, bad stuff may happen. There's a couple projects that basically are not in that list for reasons like, for example, maybe we don't have, we only had the project title, we didn't have the actual proposal, right? Then that's something that we basically pulled out of the pool before I gave them to you guys. Then there's another one that's been removed because basically it requires you to be on campus because you have to use there's a car simulator here at Polytechnic. It's like, well, you can't do that as an online student, so it doesn't show on the list for you guys. But again, that's a number that's basically, it's missing from the consecutive order if you look on Blackboard. Don't put that number, right? So make sure, right, your number corresponds to one of the things in the list that we've given you, and that it is indeed for the project you want. The second two things is going to be, well, the first one is, why does your team want this project? So you should have some justification for why you're interested in it. So your justification could be something like, well, I mean, the simplest justification is it's cool, but I don't really think that's a particularly strong justification. Maybe your justification should be something like, our team is interested in contributing to this, right? We like education, so we're going to go for one of the educational games with the School of Exploration or something like that, right? What is kind of the contribution you want to make? Or versus, your team, really wants experience working in a commercial environment because most of your team members, right, haven't worked in industry. That would be another motivation, right? So anything kind of that you can use to justify why you would be a team that would benefit from working on this project is something I want to see there. As well as, you can put your general motivation, right? It looks cool, but that shouldn't be your main thing, right? You should also be able to say, this is going to be beneficial to us. We think that this is a good project for us because of X, Y, and Z, right? There should be some reasoning that you expose to us. The second thing there is basically, why is your team suited for this project? So again, right, this is basically going to be a competitive process, right? There are different teams, they're going to be bidding on these same projects. So you should justify to us, why are you the team that gets this project, right? So why do you have the skill set that matches this, right? Why are you prepared to do this? How does it kind of align with your team members? You may want to mention some things in there like, your specific skill set. How does that line up with the project, right? So maybe you're bidding on something that one of the projects may be, again, from the School of Exploration, they use Unity, and so you'd say in there, oh, hey, we're the team to do this because we have previous experience working on projects in C#, and Unity uses C#, right? That's the type of thing you would mention here. Again, right, your justification is saying we are the ones to do this, right? We can get the job done at the end of the semester, or at the end of the 2 semesters. If there's other skills that are relevant, right, beyond kind of the direct technical skills that the sponsor may talk about, then you should mention those there as well, right? So all of a sudden you're bidding on something from the School of Exploration, it's for something space related, and oh, hey, one of the people in your team maybe has some little bit of background, right, in astronomy or something like that. Maybe that's something that's worth mentioning. For some kind of for some of basically the skills that have been requested, there may be kind of a gap in your skill set, right? So you list technologies 1 through 10, you guys know 9 of them, and one of them you do not know. You should still be bidding on that project, but what you need to do is basically have some justification here for how you take care of it, right? So there's a gap in your skill set. However, and first of all, right, you acknowledge it, right? You don't just sweep it under the rug, right? You do acknowledge that there is a gap, and then from that point, you say, okay, this is our plan, and it will address that gap, right? We're going to, immediately, start, learning about this other domain or something like that, right? As long as you have some justification there that says we can still do this, then you're okay. Let's see, I'm glancing down the bullet points. I guess I kind of skipped over the first bullet point there. Focus areas are made. So another thing, you can say why you're suited for this project is, it's web and mobile, and most of our guys are web and mobile because you're in online. That's the primary choice right now. But maybe, right, there's a couple people that have kind of different secondary focuses. So I know you guys, some of you have, for example, IT secondary focuses, right? Well, if it's kind of a project geared towards IT, right, something that you're maybe using internally at a company. That would be something to mention here, right? So in addition to technical skills, maybe somehow work in your coursework that you've taken, right, or your kind of secondary interest areas. Okay, so these are basically the things we're going to be expecting in the project bid. So please complete the form. Don't just try to skip over one of these sections or just put one sentence. Do kind of answer what is being asked, and you'll see the exact prompts later on when you go into Blackboard. Do be concise. Don't write us a small essay. I'm not going to read a small essay. If you need a small essay to explain yourself, then maybe you want to take a step back and try to figure out why. Maybe that's not really something you should be bidding on if it takes you a page to explain, how you're going to address your skill gaps, right? That's maybe not appropriate. If you need to, right, you can use bullets, you can use lists. It's not obligated to be paragraph form. Just make sure that you're answering the question that is asked, you're doing it professionally, and you're doing it concisely, right? So those are kind of the keys there of what we're expecting. Okay, so some general ideas of kind of maximizing your chance to get the project you want. So first one, right, no poor spelling or grammar, right? So this is going to reduce your chances, right? Again, to me, I would see a bid like that, and I would simply think that's unprofessional, it's sloppy. I don't want to really assign a team that's not going to be paying attention to this. So that's kind of the number one thing there, and I would consider it kind of general professionalism. Same as the second thing, right? Incomplete or missing information. If you did not fill out part of your bid form, that is a huge issue. From my standpoint, again, that's simply a team that's not putting in as much effort as they should be. Once you submit these in Blackboard, you should basically go back to My Grades and double check. Did we fill in everything, right? Are all those project numbers right? You should make sure that is there. Third point there, right? Irrelevant information, right? So don't go telling us, your life story. You always wanted to do this since you were very little. That doesn't really play much into the sponsor and having their goal of, I just want the project to be done. I want to have a product at the end of the day. So don't, so stay concise, right? Don't give us extra information. Give us something that we can read in a reasonable amount of time. Another thing to avoid is telling us that, hey, there's a skill gap in our team, right? Or maybe not just, so it could be you directly telling us there's a skill gap. There could be also you omitting, one of the skills the sponsor asked for and not telling us that you have it. That's bad, right? If you don't have an action plan to say, okay, this is how we're going to mitigate it. This is how we're going to basically, address that so that we do have the appropriate skill set to be successful, right? If you kind of just ignore that, that's very bad. So excessively wrong responses, do be concise, right? Being concise is always important. People have limited time, right? Don't make us, hunt through, entire paragraph that's just kind of fluffy stuff, right? Just get to the point, frame it well, right, and be concise. Okay, late bids. So the red part here, I'm just going to read. Late bids will not be accepted. Will result in 0 points towards your grade. And maybe more important than that, you may not get the projects you want, right? If your bid is late and other people are on time and other people are more professional about it, well, then the project's probably going to go for them. So again, to maximize you getting the project you want, you should be trying to submit on time, right? You should be getting it in there. If you can, get in there early. Probably that's a little bit hard for you guys because you do need the time to talk about this as a group. But if you can, get it in early. Don't leave it to the last hour. Okay, so next thing I want to talk about is basically the overall process. So the overall process is going to go in tiers based on our level or how you indicate basically your preference. So initially what will happen is we'll start with the projects that have, we'll start with the bids based on who has, their first choice. So initially, right, we'll basically lay out all of the bids we receive from all the teams and all the classes, and we'll look at all the first choice bids. So if there is a project where only one team chose that as their first choice, well then, hey, if that's a natural fit, we'll go ahead and give that project to that team, right? It's not going to be contested there, right? We're just going to go ahead and assign that team because that team essentially is going to be the best, right? They're hopefully ones, right, that have justified it, and they're the ones that they really want to do that, right? They're motivated to do it. They've listed as their number one preference, so they're going to get it, right? There's nobody contesting them. Now, in other cases, right, we're going to have several several teams, right, that all have kind of their first preference set as this particular project. And if that happens, right, it's contested, right? Everybody is really motivated to do it. And so in that case, right, we'll take a look at all of the different submissions we received, right, that basically list this particular project as being the number one choice, and we'll compare them. And we'll try to identify or decide which of these, right, is the best by some quality metrics, right? Mainly our metrics are going to be, the overall quality of it, right? How well is this team fit? How good is this team a fit for this particular project, right? Those are things we're going to be looking at, and we, right, as the instructors, will judge which team is going to be the best. So once we do that, right, we pick, somebody to do that, then we'll basically remove that project from the pool of projects that are out there, right? That assignment is completed. And so we'll repeat that over and over and over again, basically until we've examined everybody's first bid, right? And so all the projects that have, someone's first bid on there, then that's what will be assigned initially, right? And so we'll burn through all of those. And then, right, we basically have a pool of, okay, there's some remaining projects, and then we'll have everybody else, and now we have to look at their second bid, right? Because we already looked at their first bid. Some teams will have gotten what they want for. Other teams will have been kind of contested with somebody else, and maybe they were picked or maybe they weren't picked. While the ones that weren't picked, right, in that case, right, basically we're going to go and look at your second one, right? So then we'll take a look at your second project that you're bidding for and do the same process, right? So, if you're the only person you're the only team, right, that has this as a second preference, well then we'll go ahead and say, yeah, you guys are the ones that are going to do it. Now, if there's multiple people that listed it as second preference, well, then we'll do the same thing where we lay them all out and try to decide which is the best and the most appropriate team for this project. And we'll cycle through them all again, right? Go and look at everybody's second preference over all the different projects. and do the assignments as we need to. And we'll just repeat this again and again, right? So after we've done all the projects are listed, basically a second preference, then we'll go and look at all the projects, the third preference, and then fourth preference, right? So the preferences really are key, right? That's going to be the order in which we decide, who gets what, or that we check for who gets what. As a final thing, right, if we go through there, right, maybe all the bids you've submitted, all four were contested, right, and you weren't really the best choice, in that case what will happen is we will examine your skill set, and from among the projects that are, appropriate for your skill set, right, based on what your team has, we will then assign you randomly a project that's in that domain, right? So we want to make sure you guys have a project to work on and something you can be successful at. I'm hoping that we don't actually have this as an issue. I do think that people, go through with, doing all four bids, right, even the optional one. You should be okay as far as getting one of those ones. Okay, so moving forward, this is a little bit on how the contested bids will be handled. So obviously, right, a big one is skill set, right? So who has the most appropriate skills, right? Do they have what the sponsor's asking for? For things they don't have, are they going to address it in a way that seems reasonable? Focus areas of interest, right? What is your motivation for doing this? Let's see, relevant experience. So do you have projects that are related to this in the past you've done that can kind of demonstrate that you will be successful in this domain? General justification, overall quality of the bid, right? It goes back to professionalism, right? Is it well written? Is it concise? No grammar errors, no spelling errors. Final reminder there, right, is again, we're going to look at all the first choice bids, and then all the second choice bids, and then all the third choice bids, right? So those are kind of even tiers, right? Those are the tiers we're working at, and we are going to evaluate them one at a time and then kind of move downward. Some bidding strategies here. So I mentioned, right, there are several clouds, right? They're all going off of roughly the same pool, right? There's just a couple of projects that are different for one reason or another. Some general strategies. Let's see. First of all, I guess I can read these. So go down to the do list, right? I think you should do, right? Select projects where your team is well suited to meet the project requirements, right? So you should have strong justification when you submit a bid on something. If you don't have strong justification, well, that means that basically when we go and we evaluate your proposal or your bid versus somebody else's bid, the other person is probably going to get that bid, or the other team's going to probably get that bid because their justification for why they're prepared to do this, right, is better. So really, do you want to burn a bidding slot on a project you're not well prepared to do? Probably not. Even if it sounds really interesting, it's probably not worth it. Do spend time on your bids, right? So make sure that you mull these over, sleep on them, right? Decide on Monday what you want to do, sleep on it, and then Tuesday finish finalizing everything and submitting it to us, right? Don't just do this in 15 minutes or an hour-long meeting. Spend your time on it. Again, this is going to be something you're involved with for an entire year. Third thing there, represent your team's capability in the best possible light. So again, right, we do want to basically justify that we are the team that can get this done. And then where there's gaps, we can address them, right? So you should I don't want to say brag, but you should shine the spotlight on yourself and try to emphasize why you guys particularly, right, are the ones that are appropriate for this project. Bullet point 4, consider bidding on one or two of the less flashy projects. So I know there's some projects out there right there, maybe from some very well-known companies, right? So bid on those, right? I'm sure those are great opportunities, but don't try to put kind of all of your eggs in one basket, right? Don't try to bid on all, 4 ultra high profile projects, because probably a lot of teams are going to be bidding on those, right? So why not pick a project, from a smaller company, right? Something that maybe, it isn't going to pop off the page to everybody, right? But still, when you look at it, it does sound like something that'd be interesting. It does seem like it would be something that's appropriate for your team, right? Well, go ahead and bid on that, right? So don't try to, hone yourself in right now. It's one area, right? Try to diversify a little bit. The last one there, right? Consider complete optional bid, right? So it is up to you, right? Do you want to do the fourth bid or not? Again, for me, I would recommend you guys do it. I do want to get you guys I want to get you guys all the good projects, I guess I should say. I know this is kind of a little bit of a competitive thing here between us and ground. I want to make sure that online, we get some very good projects. So please, make sure you get your fourth bid in there, so we can kind of cover everything. Okay. Don't, right? So these are kind of maybe and kind of the flip side of the do's, right? So don't wait until the last minute. Don't omit information, right? Don't do that, right? Do what we ask for in the form. Don't bid on only the most popular projects. I kind of already mentioned that, right? Make sure you diversify a little bit, right? Grab some of the major vendor names out there, right? You recognize you think would be great to have in your resume, but also try for some of the smaller or less known projects, assuming they're appropriate and assuming they're interesting to you. Okay, so as far as next steps, you're going to work with your team over the next few days to decide, what are the top 4 projects you want, get those written up, right? And then on Wednesday, right, at midnight, I'm going to expect to see from you guys some submissions that basically say, these are the projects you want, and we're the people to do that. All right, so if you guys have any questions, go ahead and drop me an email, use Pitch, Piazza, whatever. I look forward to seeing you guys' bid. I'm hoping we can get some really good projects this academic year. So, all right, I will see you guys later.